Welcome to the Writer Groupie Podcast. I'm Kim Smith, the writing guru, bringing you discussions, insights, and insider details on planning, producing, promoting, and profiting as a writer. This is a podcast by writers for writers. You can find out more about Writer Groupie at www.writergroupie.net. And here's the next episode of Writer Groupie. And welcome everybody to Writer Groupie. This is episode 72, and my guest tonight is Kathryn Sullivan. Kathy's been on the show before, probably like a year ago, I think. It was either right before or right after Imaginarium last year. I did get to meet with you again at Imaginarium this year. It was wonderful seeing you again. And some things have happened in your writing life since we got together last year. Won't you tell us a little bit about what's been going on?
Well, in January, Amberco Press, which is a publisher I've been with since 2003, so about 13 years, announced that they'd looked at the sales for the past year and decided they were going to close their doors. And I think reason that they also didn't mention was that one of the owners is in her 80s, so they probably were thinking it might be good to close everything down while things were still working really well. They were going to close at the end of March, and they gave us that warning in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time for you to make preparations.
Well, it was enough, though, because at least mentally prepare yourself. And I could basically then, because they had the discount so that you could buy some stock, so you'd be able to have books for convention. So I did that. And they warned us that, now Amberco Press did it the right way. The rights reverted to everybody at the end of March. Royalties were paid up through September because Amazon takes forever to get payments through. And Amazon did kind of mess things up by deciding to take down all the Kindles in February instead of waiting to the end of March. But Barnes & Noble left theirs up in Kindle, up in Nook version 4 until the end of March. Then it also gave me prepared, like, okay, do I want to then self-publish something? Because I'm lazy. I am very lazy. I'd rather have a publisher handle it. But at the same time, one of my short stories had been nominated, was a finalist for an Epi.
Is that the one you have the book cover for?
Yeah.
The
Rescue.
hold that up and show us.
Let's see if I can get this up to the camera.
There you go.
It's going to
there
be
you
reversed.
go. Great.
Yeah.
Search and Rescue was nominated for an Epi this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a finalist. And what was cool was that it was, of the 5 finalists, it was the only non-romance short work. So it's like, okay, that was cool. It didn't win, but because I knew the announcements of who won would be later on after March. So I figured, okay, that one I will self-publish so that in case it was only a short story. So I could self-publish that, and in case it won, it'd be there already. And if it didn't win, well, it's still available on Kindle for anybody to buy.
How many books and works did you have with your former publisher?
I had 3 books, 2 short stories, and 1 free short story with them.
So you had quite a few things.
Yeah. But they weren't the only publisher I was with.
Yeah. That's just becoming so popular. I won't say popular. It's not really popular, but commonplace. Yeah. A lot of authors are really interested in becoming published with small and independent publishers, which is fabulous. I've done that myself.
Yeah.
But the problem is, at some point down the line, that publisher may kind of think about it, go out of business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fold down, may, downsize their house.
May die. May die. We've had a few publishers die.
There's a lot of different things that could happen when you're published with a small publisher.
Yeah.
And so you are a perfect example to talk about this now because you had this to go through yourself. So if there's an author out there who's considering, you know, leaving a house, or perhaps they've gotten the bad news that their house is going to be closing, what do they need to do to get their rights back? Now, your publisher gave you your rights back,
Right.
but what would you have done if that hadn't taken place? I mean, do you know the steps?
Man, I don't know because I've heard so many of some publishers that closed and the authors had to sue to get their rights back.
I've heard that
So,
too.
yeah. So I'd probably be reaching out because I belong to Epic, which is an organization of electronically published authors. So I'd be reaching out on that author network and saying, what do I do?
Very good
What's
idea.
those people done?
You know,
And
we're
I
so
also
fortunate to live in a time when we can network with others so easily.
because otherwise you'd be digging around the library looking at writers' markets and law and everything else. But
That's true.
since I belong to Broad Universe and I belong to Epic, these are people I can call on and say, what has other people done in this situation? Another thing, as a small press author, don't have everything with one press because
Good advice.
I've got short stories with other companies. I've got a picture book with another publisher. Um, and because I'm in Epic, I have worked with other publishers. So it's always good to network with people beforehand too, so you can get an idea of, well, and they've already known me too because some of them have been judges for the Epi Awards and they get a feel for my stuff. So that way, I've already got a community of small press that I can basically talk to and say, "Hi there, I am now looking for a new publisher," which worked
Is
out.
that what you did when you learned of the bad news? Did you
Um,
immediately go out and start looking for a new publisher?
Not right away because I was going to start, thinking about, well, should I be concentrating on my stuff that is no longer in print, or should I just work on the new piece that I've been working on for quite a while, and then come with to a new publisher with that and say, oh, by the way, I've got a backlog. So I was thinking about that for the longest time too.
Sure.
Not right away. I basically looked at some of the other publishers just to get a feel for, okay, who's looking for stuff right now? Because like I said, I was helping with Epic for a while, so I was one of the people helping with the webpage. So I knew that some people only accepted things every other month. Some people might have changed what their focus was. So I went and looked at the web pages for some of the publishers, and I figured, well, I will try to finish up the work I'm still working on, and then go to another publisher. But it's been a couple months. I'm still working on that work, so I did run into some of the publishers I knew about at Worldcon, at Imaginarium, at Mid South Con, and just started, just feel like you guys open to young adults about republishing things, and just to get a feel for. And some of them were basically, well, maybe, and so they were rather hesitant. But I'd been talking to a friend on Facebook, and she'd been mentioning that she's with the bigger press having problems,
Oh,
and
wow.
one of the small press I was looking at responded saying, "Oh, hey, don't forget us. We'll be looking at your stuff." And at that point, I was more like, is she talking to me or is she talking to the person whose main wall it's on? So I waited until I saw this publisher at another convention
Mm-hmm.
and said, by the way, and just brought up the whole situation with Amber Quill. And she's going, yeah, we won it.
Wow.
Good. Okay. So I lucked out that way. Because I wasn't aggressively pushing it. It was just more like, well, what do you think about republishing? You still looking for YA? Mine's more middle grade YA. And just kind of approach. I wanted to do it in person rather than just emailing people out of the blue.
Right.
Because I mean, I had their email addresses, but I feel like I get a more comfortable response talking to them in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I think face to face is definitely the way to go, if at all possible.
Hmm.
Because, even if you can't have an opportunity to discuss it face to face, talk to them at the con and get your
Hmm.
face and name before them, so that when your stuff appears on their desk, they're not completely unaware of who you are. They have a
Yeah.
little bit of a connection with you.
Hmm.
But the more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking to myself, okay, small presses are going out of business, big presses are starting to struggle.
Hmm.
You know, is this a time for authors to come together and decide, do they want to do an independent thing? Do they want to try and do it on their own? I mean, I have been indie published, small press published for a long time, but they all went out of business. And so I was left with no choice but to do it myself.
Uh-huh.
And once I went, out on my own, I realized that I really, really liked the control.
Oh, good.
And so I can't say that I would never go small press again, because
Hmm.
I might. I
Hmm.
never say never. But I
Yeah.
really enjoy the indie experience. I like doing it
Good.
myself.
Hmm.
And it's not for everybody. Like you said, a lot of people don't want to have to do all the things that you
Yeah.
have to do as an independent published author. And there's a lot to it.
Hmm.
But, if you can do it yourself, that's an
Hmm.
option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can't or don't want to do it yourself, then do your research.
Right.
Do you think that's pretty much good advice?
Definitely. Hmm. Oh, yeah.
I agree, because there's quite a few things that an author's going to experience if their small to mid-sized house notifies them and says, hey, guess what? We're closing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to consider. And a few of those things would be, promotional items. We discussed
Right.
this briefly, offline. What will an author do about their cover art? Because that belongs to the house.
Yeah.
And
Now,
I believe I've heard this from other authors, that the final edited, formatted inside of the book, if you were given that,
hmm
is also the house's.
hmm
You need to you need to go through that manuscript, and you have to change all the formatting and stuff, because a lot of houses have copyrighted items that they'll put in, little pictures or things that are pertaining to their house, for like scene breaks.
Yeah.
All that stuff has to be stripped out, and you have to start from scratch.
hmm
Is there anything else you can think of that an author might need to think about?
Whew.
I would
Well, I'll
imagine.
start walking and then start bringing them up as it went along. So, like cover art, I bought the art director basically gave us the option to purchase our cover book rights.
That's
Our
good.
cover, and I did for Search and Rescue because I knew I was going to self-publish that.
Right.
Um, and then he offered such a good discount for the other book covers. I figured, okay, just in case, I'll go ahead and purchase those because I've got them just in case.
So
The
you're
new
very fortunate that was offered to you,
Oh yeah,
because some houses won't do that. And so an author's not only stuck with an orphan book, but now they have to go and find a cover artist to recover it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a house takes all that responsibility on itself, and the author doesn't have a whole lot of input. So this could be a good experience for the author in finding another small house, so that maybe they have more input on the cover art. Then again, they may decide to do it themselves, and then they have all of the input about the cover art. So that's a really individualized situation. But that's definitely something to consider if you get the word that your publisher's closing. Is what will you do about your cover art?
because I mean, as far as promotional means, that means postcards, bookmarks. You're gonna have to come up with something new. I've also got the pens that I usually give out
That's
that
right.
have my URL, my name, and the name of the book. But those, of course, since they don't have anything else, I can basically just kind of stockpile until I actually have something to promote with that.
Right.
Because I've been handing out some pens, but that's just when I've got the back stock with
Right.
me, the books I've got with me. I can't direct anybody to Amazon anymore because, I mean, yeah, Amazon has used copies for sale, but there's no e-copies.
Well, and not only that, but you're not getting royalties.
Nope, not from the
You're
used.
not getting paid at all for that.
Nope.
So why would you do that? You wouldn't do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
You know, um, I'll tell you what I think you could do would be if you had print versions of those books.
which I bought the back stock that I've been
Mm-hmm.
bringing mentioned.
Have a fire sale. You know,
Yeah.
on your
Hmm.
website maybe offer them $5 a book, or something really appealing to a buyer,
Okay.
and have a big giveaway. Have a big sale.
Yeah.
And if you're going, and I know you are because you go to cons all the time,
Yep.
take a bunch of those and advertise them as original copies.
Yeah.
Original cover art, original copy.
Hmm.
For sale.
Once I know,
Reprisal coming soon or something like that.
yeah, once I know when the book is going to come out in the new version. Right now, I've just got these to bring along because I have no idea when the new release is going to be, other than next year. Something. So,
I know you're excited. It's a kind
yeah.
of an interesting time when you have new work coming out from a new publishing company. It's like everything's all new again.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, I'm going through the usual author information forms, cover art forms, and going, and one of the form requests was any reviews for the book, and even old reviews. And looking back through all the old reviews was nice. It was encouraging because I kind of got to the point like, well, nobody will want this, and
Yeah.
find out, yeah, somebody does want to publish it again, and yeah, people did kind of think highly of the book. All right.
Well, let me ask you this. What about those reviews? Will you be able to keep those reviews and use them again? Will you
Mm-hmm.
have to get new reviews? I mean, will you be rewriting the books?
The two young adult fantasies, no. The one short story collection is going to be bumped up from, it was originally 16 short stories. It's now going to be 20. So I'm going to
Good.
be adding some more short stories to that, which is going to be nice
Mm-hmm.
because I won't have to have these scattered anthologies I've been bringing with me all the time. They'll all be in one place.
Yeah, I know you're excited about that.
Yeah.
So, I was also thinking, you were saying about like bookmarks and things like that. That's that's a pain in the neck when you think about it because we invest a lot of money in
Hmm.
swag,
Yeah.
especially for book signings and things like that. And if we are like left on our own to do those, and we
Hmm.
are generous enough to put the publisher's information on there,
Yeah.
and we no longer have that publisher, all of that swag that we've paid for, and it's not cheap, you guys. Not
Hmm.
when you buy it in bulk.
Yeah.
It's now garbage, basically, unless you can find some way to cut it off of a bookmark or a postcard or whatever it might be on. So that's another
Yeah.
downfall.
Now the
Um,
pens, I had, because I go to so many young writers conferences a few years ago, and because Amber Quill was starting to focus more on erotica and romance, I took the publisher URL off those pens and put my own URL on instead because, kind of got a little worried. YA kids, I don't want them going to a site with erotica, so
Definitely a thought.
I've already got those pens already set up for with my name. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing that we have websites for our stuff, and that's our main hub, and everything comes out from there because, and I know a lot of writers are not that way. They just have a real, easy breezy, freebie kind of website that has, their bio, their about them, a little bit about their latest work, maybe contact information, not a whole lot at all. Definitely not even a blog on there.
yeah,
And they leave it up to the publisher to do all the promotion for them. And so they want to tell somebody about their work, they send them to the publisher site. That will not fly if your publisher decides to go out of business. So let me encourage you once again. I know Kathryn will agree with me. Get a website. and make that where you send everybody. Have links to your books. Do all those things that you see other authors do, and you've been told and told and told, especially even on this show. You must have a website, and it needs to be complete. You can send them to your publisher's site too, but make your website the hub, not the publisher's site. Because of this very reason, if they go out of business, you've lost your hub. And that's a bad thing for an author trying to sell books, especially books that are now orphaned, that they're going to have to bring back out again, either through indie publishing or through another small house. That stuff takes time. And you could have a website where you're keeping all of your readers and your fans and followers updated on the progress, what's going on. How did you do that? Did you keep a blog, or did you notify your readers of what was going on, or did you just kind of like cut and paste?
Notified on Facebook, notified on my author Facebook page. Have little things. I basically mentioned sales on my website, and also list on my page where I've got all my books listed that Amber Cook closed this date. So of course, when I've got the new date to announce, will be on that page. I share a blog with several other YA authors, which is at YA authors you've never heard of. So I had a whole blog about Amber Cook Press closing, and I could basically mention the sale at that time before the end of March.
Yeah.
And that brought up some sales, which was good. But, yeah, those are the main ones.
Yeah, you gotta have a plan. I think that would be something good that you could do, Kathy, is make a checklist for authors. These are the things to plan for in your career. And if this happens, do this. And if this happens, do that. Just a kind of an overview, of what to do in the event that your publisher closes or dies, God forbid, or whatever, where it leaves you an orphaned author with orphaned books. That's something that's needed. You need to do that, Kathy. I'm giving you directive here. Create a checklist.
I think there are several other authors who have already done something similar, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, Kathy knows. So if she says it's out there, it's out there. You just have to go do your homework. But, it's a bad situation when you get the news that your publisher is closing. I've been there. I've had that happen to me not once but twice. And fortunately for me, fortunately for you, I got the rights back. I didn't want the cover art. I couldn't afford it. The artist owned the cover art, not the publisher. And they wanted a lot of money for their art, and I couldn't afford it. So you know what? I said, I'm going to bring the book out. I'm going to update the book. I'm going to rewrite the book. I'm going to bring it out totally new, and it needs a new face. So that's what I did. Now, that's not for everybody, but that's what I did. So, I'm really happy for you, though, that you have landed on your feet, as it were. So we're getting down to the last little while of the show. Won't you tell us what's coming now?
Well, I still need to finish it, because it's the YA story set on a space colony that I've still been working on. So the only thing new-ish that's out is still Search and Rescue, which is my short story about a wildlife rescuer who finds something different out in the woods after a thunderstorm. So, yeah.
I'm going to link up to that in the show notes for this podcast, so you
Because
guys
it
can.
was a finalist for an Epi ebook award.
Yes, and it was in young adult fantasy category. Yes.
No, this one wasn't, because this was basically in the short works category.
Oh, okay. See, can you tell I've never entered any of my work for an Epi? I don't even know what the categories are.
Oh, gosh, there are so many.
Well, that's something that I might want to consider doing this year, because I've not done that before. And honestly, it feels kind of good to have, an award. My friend Linda has several books that have won awards in it, and I'm very pleased for authors when they can do that. I mean, I'm very happy that there's organizations that offer that kind of stuff for us. I mean, today, being independently published, where you've done it all yourself, nobody cares. These contests are open to you, indie author. They want for you to send your self-published work in.
Yep.
There's no more discrimination. So if you've done it yourself, you've got a self-published, indie-published book, and you want to enter into the EPIs, all you have to do is join the EPIs, I guess, right?
Well, you pay a little bit higher if you're not a member, but that's about it. And of course, the money that comes in is basically paying for the awards and publication and promotion and stuff of the awards.
Do they still have a banquet, a gathering to give out those awards, or is it done?
They didn't have a convention last year, so they didn't have the banquet with the convention. I think they're planning on having a convention for next year's, but I haven't heard anything yet.
When is the awards?
It usually... I'd have to go to the website because I think it usually opens in July, and then so it goes from July through the judging category goes from July of one year through June of the next year.
Oh wow! Do you know what the URL is?
I just basically had it open, and did I remember it? No. It's epicorg.com. EPICORG.com.
Oh, Epic.
And they will have the links to the ebook awards, and also if you want to enter your cover art, that's another category you can enter in.
Oh wow! Well, that really interests me because I do my own cover art. So
Yeah, for Search and Rescue, I entered the cover art that Trace Edward Zabber did from Amber Quill. Because I like this cover art.
Did it win?
No, but it was a finalist, so hey.
Hey, that's good, because when you think about these contests, there's a lot of entrants. So for you to final in anything, you've done really well. If you win, you've done extraordinarily well.
Yes.
So, well, listen, Kathy, it's been so great having you back on the show, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And next year, I hope you'll come back with your new work. We're looking forward to seeing some new writing from you and some new cover art and new tales of adventure with a new publisher.
Thank you. Definitely would come back.
Well, I know you will, because I'm going to hound you to death until you do. Anyway, I'll close this up and get ready for episode 72, you guys, with Kathryn Sullivan. Thanks again, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Writer Groupie. For booking information, show notes, and more, visit writergroupie.net.